It's good to see you again. I don't know. Last time I saw you was at Loop, whenever that
Yeah, when
was
was that, man?
in
That was
LA,
ages ago.
2018. Is that right?
Yeah, that was fucking ages ago.
So long. Yeah. And we hung out a few times, went to a couple different workshops. It was a hot minute, but that was fun. That was really cool. Great event. I've talked about it on the podcast a billion times. Did you present at that event? I thought you might have.
Nah, I
Oh,
was just invited.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where we first met. Before we say goodbye, you gave me like one of the greatest life hack tips I've ever had about using leftover pizza to make a quiche.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, bro, that's been life changing. Honestly, whenever I have leftover pizza, I used to always use my air fryer for leftover pizza, which is obviously amazing. But now I just like throw it in a pan and just like slow cook it on each side and then add an egg at the end and just turn it into a pizza quiche. It's probably the greatest advice anybody's ever given me.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you for that. Good life hack. Are you in Vancouver right now?
Yeah. I've been living here for 10 years.
How's life up there?
The rent's expensive.
Dude, that's everywhere now. I think rent is expensive in all big cities.
Yeah. It's good though. Like there's plenty of like music going on and you know, the weather's not too bad. We got beaches and shit. It's cool.
There's beaches in Vancouver?
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Honestly, my geography is really sad. So I didn't know that. Is that what Vancouver's known for?
There's heaps of beaches.
Nice beaches.
I mean, you know, I grew up in Australia, so I'm like, they're technically beaches, but they're not real beaches in my opinion. You know, the Australian beaches, they completely destroy these Vancouver beaches, but you know, like still okay. I mean, if you're a Canadian, you've never been to an Australian beach before, you might, let's say you're from Edmonton, you like come to Vancouver, you're like, whoa, check out these beaches. These are sick.
In Australia, like beaches probably are nicer aesthetically, but then you have to worry about sharks and pretty much every type of wildlife that wants to kill you.
Nah, you don't have to worry about sharks. They're more scared of you than you are of them.
Is that why there's tons of shark attacks in Australia, from what I've heard?
Dude, there's not. There's like, I don't know, there's like one shark attack per year. There'll be like 1,000 people that die every month, like driving their car. And then like one shark attack like every 10 years or some shit. And everyone's like, oh my God, don't go in the water. But then everyone gets in their car every single day and drives around. So it's like, it's completely unproportionate, the amount of fear.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I've seen too many shark movies.
Yeah.
I'd love for people to get to know you a little bit better. I've known you probably since a little before 2018, but that's when we met. And like, I love funky music. I'd say you are at the top of the funk game and like upcoming electronic music artists of today's world. Yeah, man. I love the new track, Energize, sorry. That was really cool. I was listening to it in the car earlier today, like speeding, probably driving way too fast. And I blame it on the music. It was like, it's really hype. And yeah, I've been loving a lot of your music. You've done collabs with a lot of artists I really dig. So I told my friends to see you at Shambhala because you played this year, right?
Yeah.
How was that?
Shambhala was sweet, man. Thanks for the compliments, by the way.
Of course.
It was my 11th time playing at Shambhala. Something about Shambhala, I still get nervous, even after a decade of playing at the Fractal Forest. But it's such an awesome show. I put a lot of effort into the music that I play there. So I guess I kind of just overhype it for myself and get kind of nervous. But I don't know. I feel like I've been more nervous in past years. And this year I felt like I was kind of transforming the nervousness into excitedness, which is nice. I was just like stoked to get up there and play everyone my cool music, you know?
Yeah. Do you have like any pre-game, like pre-show rituals that you do to like get yourself in the zone, like mental?
Not really. If we're talking about like just shows in general across the board, I feel like I always have a better time on stage performing if, you know, the promoter takes me out for dinner and we hang out and have a beer or two, and maybe some of the promoter's friends are like fans and they come to dinner and then we all have a chat, have a bit of a laugh. Then I feel more part of I feel more welcome and more part of the city, you know, welcome to that city, welcome to that festival. And then I feel like more comfortable on stage. But if I just get straight out of the airplane and go straight on stage, it's like, it's a bit of a shock, you know. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone is excited to see me or if anyone has heard my music before or, you know, that kind of thing. So it's always nice to hang out with the promoters, hang out with just people from that city and have a laugh.
Yeah. Yeah, for real. I think like the relationships I've made are like the best part of playing shows when I've played shows. Just like meeting new people, new faces, and like having that connection. I mean, that's why I think a lot of people like playing shows. It's just the community aspect. Even just behind the stage of meeting people, getting to know other people, making those connections. For sure. It's invaluable.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, earlier you said that I'm the top of the funk game or something. I want to correct you and say that I feel like these days I write music of all genres.
This is true.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Although I do love funky music. And a little bit of funk creeps into everything that I write. You know, Energize is a drum and bass song, you know, my last release.
Yeah.
And then there's like Mellow Kinda Hype, which is a hip hop track. Oh man, I got these 3 other songs coming out soon. They're all like bass hop, which is like, I don't know, fast dubstep, I suppose. And I got a house song coming out at some point. These are unreleased ones. But yeah, I've just been going absolute ham on just any genre because it's just more fun, you know?
Yeah, totally.
It's probably like marketing wise, like a better idea to just stick to one genre and just only make that because then you know, it's easier to sell.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's much easier to sell and target people with certain music styles like that. But
yeah,
I just can't do that, man.
Yeah, I mean, you got to do you, do what makes you happy. And in the end of the day, like I agree and I disagree with that. I think it is easier to market yourself as an artist because people know what they're going to get. And as a manager perspective to sell you, that makes it easier.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I get really bored when I go to a lot of shows and it's just the same BPM the entire set. Like, you know, and I think you actually pull a more diverse crowd of a fan base when you mix it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, then you run the risk of if you play a style of music that like some people don't like, then they might just be like, I don't know. I just try to play good music of all genres.
That's my favorite kind of music is good music.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the website? I think I might have mentioned this before on the podcast, Everynoisecom. It's like a spider web. It's like a huge, probably the biggest database of all genres. And it's like this massive spider web, and you can click on like hundreds of thousands of genres, and then it'll pull up like every artist from that genre, and then it links directly to like their music. So like on Spotify profiles and stuff like that. So you can like that's where I discovered vampire techno like years ago. There's so many random genres in there that you've never heard of. It's really interesting. It's a good way to find obscure artists around the world.
Cool.
But yeah, man, I'd love for people to get to know you a little better, maybe even on a personal level too. Like maybe give us a little bit of the history of like music growing up for you and like how did that lead you to using Ableton Live? Obviously, this is an Ableton user podcast, so.
Yeah, right. Growing up, I was always interested in music. My dad is a big fan of music. I actually have a video where I interview my dad on my YouTube channel so you can see kind of where I came from. But he just has like a floor to ceiling across the wall CD cabinet filled with CDs, and they're all like alphabetically labeled and organized. He has every CD ripped to FLAC on a hard drive so that he can put his entire collection on shuffle.
Whoa.
On his, he used to have a Sonos system, but now he's switched to something else. But it's like a wireless system, and you can listen to music, the same song, all throughout the house. So he'll like go down into his workshop and be listening to the same song. Gets in his car. There's like a USB stick that has like that week's shuffle on it. Then on top of all that, he's got like a huge vinyl collection as well, and has like one of these fucking UFO looking record players with like a $5,000 needle or something. He shoots ions at it with this gun, and then
What?
he's got these crazy speakers. I can't remember the name of the brand, but they are electrostatic speakers, so you can actually see right through the speaker. There's a hole. You know those that metal with all the holes in it. It's like that.
Okay.
And so there's one layer of metal with all the holes in it, and then another layer behind it with metal and all the holes. And in between that is like a piece of plastic that gets electrically statically charged and vibrates to produce the music.
That sounds wild.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I think it's similar technology to like those ribbon looking tweeters and stuff.
Hmm.
It's really wild. And the bass, so that kind of static thing sits on top of a like bass setup, and it's got like I think they're like 12-inch drivers, one facing forward, one facing back, and then a passive one on the bottom. And it's a sealed system. So the bass is getting pushed out the front and the back, and then passively, the pressure builds inside the box and pushes down to the floor.
Whoa.
So that shit sounds like $1 million, dude, for real.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to know what brand that is or whatever.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Can't think of it right now. But anyway, that's what he's got now. But, growing up, he had like some shittier stuff. Shittier. It was always like really decent. So, yeah, I listened to lots of music when I was a kid. And then I got really interested in creating music. And then my dad bought me this PlayStation game called Music. And it was like, I think a lot of music producers that are around the same age as me have a similar story where they started out using this PlayStation game called Music, because this game was like, it was a fucking DAW basically.
I've heard of that. I never played it, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like a rudimentary DAW. And then Music 2000 came out, which is the sequel. And that one, you could pop the fucking lid on the PlayStation 1. We're talking PlayStation 1 here. Pop the lid, take the game CD out, put an audio CD in, and you could sample part of an audio CD.
What?
And then you'd pop the top and put the game CD back in, and you could make songs with samples. And
That's
so that was like
amazing.
my first introduction to music production. And I didn't know it was called music production at the time.
That's
Yeah,
hilarious.
and then from there, like my interest only grew further. My buddy came around one time with a cracked copy of Fruity Loops. I think it was like version 3.4 or something. And I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. Like I distinctly remember saying to him, I think you've just kept me busy for the rest of my life, which is pretty true.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say you'd be pretty busy making music these days. Come a long way from PlayStation 1 music making.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, between the PlayStation game and Fruity Loops, I was using something called Rebirth, which is by Propeller Heads, this old software. And it's like 2 drum machines and I think 3 synthesizers. And it was like a step sequencer. So it was like really basic stuff. And then, yeah, I used FL Studio for a while, make some whack ass music. And then I wanted to get more into sampling because I was also interested in DJing in parallel, and sampling and making remixes of songs was really interesting to me. And that's when I got interested in Ableton, because I heard that Ableton at the time did a better job at like time stretching and stuff, what we now know as warping. And so, yeah, the first thing I was trying to do in Ableton was warp samples to match tempos, because in FL Studio, I don't think there was anything like that yet. And you had to basically beat slice it, which obviously had its own problems with the gaps if you're trying to slow it down and whatever. But I was manually beat slicing stuff in Audacity, and it was real jank. But yeah, since getting onto Ableton, it took me a while to make the transition, but I started preferring it more and more.
What version was that when you first jumped in?
I don't know, like 5 or
Okay.
6. I'd have to look at the dates on when these are released, but I remember it was like, it might have been 6. Ableton 6.
That might have been like 2009-ish, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, you can Google it, but whatever.
Yeah. Sweet. So it's been a few years. Are you on 11.3 now?
Oh yeah, I'm always using the latest version. I don't bother with the beta versions, just because I don't have time to download it and install it, run 2 versions at the same time, and blah blah blah.
I know. I always end up accidentally working in a beta version. I'm like, damn it, and I have to go like backwards and try to like go fix it.
I do a lot of work with students and stuff. I'm teaching a lot of music production, and I do obviously do a lot of collabs too. So you can't really be using a beta version for that. But I get the emails, and I'm like, oh, can't wait till that's released for real.
Yeah.
You know, this bug fix or that bug fix. I actually found a bug recently in the drum rack, and I reported it, and they fixed it. But there was this bug where, you know how you can put a window around like 16 pads, and you can move that window up and down.
Right.
Well, I had a bunch of samples in this drum rack, and I'm pushing a key on my keyboard to trigger that pad, and then I'm hitting Control R or Command R to rename it. And then I hit a pad outside that window and hit the shortcut key to rename it, and Ableton just crashed.
Oh no. No.
So yeah, I reported it, and they fixed it, which is cool.
Yeah, I feel like the team is actually pretty good compared to a lot of other software companies as far as like squishing bugs.
They do all right. I think I just worry that like maybe it's like Ableton's slowly getting like more and more bloated, and you got to have like a faster and faster computer. Like I swear I remember the browser being a lot faster than it is now, but I'm either remembering it wrong, or there's more features that require things to be a little slower, and I'm just like forgetting that those features didn't exist before or something like that. But overall, like Ableton's always been great.
Do you run your user library or any of your samples and stuff on a external hard drive? Because I know that's been an issue for some people, speed, the browser.
No, and I only have SSDs as well. So the bottleneck is not the hard drive. I do have my user library on Dropbox, but the Dropbox is downloaded locally and it's on an SSD. So I don't know.
Yeah. I had Dropbox, but then like everything just kept syncing, and it was such a pain in the ass. Like having like local storage and like everything syncing up. Sometimes it just would be annoying because it would like,
like the Dropbox app for Mac fucking sucks, man. Like
you
tell it to download everything and sync it, and it just doesn't until you go in and click a button. It's like, come on, man. Yeah. Now I'm in the airport and I need to fucking download this. But by the way, like I do think saving your user library on your Dropbox is the way to go, because if you have 2 computers, or even if you just have 1 computer, you put your user library on the Dropbox on 1 computer, then you open your other computer, and all your new racks and instruments and shit that you saved in there, and all your defaults too, just pop up. And if you only have 1 computer, if someone pours a beer on your laptop while you're DJing, just buy a new one, install Dropbox, and your user library is safe, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, if you're traveling a lot and you're going back and forth between your studio computer and a laptop, I think that makes a lot of sense.
That's what I do. I think it's ever since I started doing that, I think it's like really pro move. I also save all my projects on Ableton as well.
Yeah, that's definitely the move, I think. I don't know. I need to get better about just file organization in general. Like I do it once a year, and then I just get lazy until the next year that I do it again.
Yeah, dude. Let me tell you how big my downloads folder is right now. It's going to take a while to calculate.
Mine's extremely bloated, I could tell you that.
I got 180 gig just chilling in my downloads folder on my computer.
Using maybe like 10% of it.
I could probably delete all of it and I wouldn't even know that it's gone, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm a bit of a hoarder like that. Like, oh, what if like I used one of these samples in an Ableton project and then, I didn't collect all and save on it or something.
This episode is sponsored by Magic Mind. Honestly, I am obsessed with this stuff. I take it in the morning, I take it before a workout, I take it before I do a podcast now. It gives you all the mental clarity and focus you need without the anxiety of chugging coffee or any other energy products out there that are bad for you. You might be wondering, Dan, why would I need to spend my good hard-earned money on an energy drink? Well, it's not just like all the other crap out there. It contains 130 times the antioxidants of regular green tea. I actually gave a giant box of it to KMG Studios, where I'm doing in-person podcasts now, and the box didn't last long. A lot of the artists, a lot of the engineers love it there. One little shot gives you a perfect combo of nootropics, adaptogens, functional mushrooms, and includes ceremonial grade matcha, as they call it. It also can decrease inflammation, it supports a healthy immune system. You can take it alongside your coffee or your tea if you're a coffee addict like myself, without giving you that extra jitter or making you feel anxious throughout the day. I can think more clearly, I can be a lot more productive whenever I take this little energy shot. Magic Mind is backed by over 240 scientific studies designed to boost energy, enhance focus, and create a sense of calmness and alertness. And it probably will be the best part of your morning ritual or any other moments where you need that extra boost of focus and memory and energy. Definitely check it out. I don't think you'll be disappointed. It actually tastes good too. Just go to magicmind.com/Ableton. Use the discount code Ableton20 in all caps. That's Ableton20 and save 20%. Highly recommend this stuff. I'll be taking it all the time. And yeah, I definitely recommend for you as well. So give it a try. Go to magicmind.com/Ableton. Check out the link in the show notes for more details. I've had students who are like, I'm out of hard drive space. I just need to like buy a new laptop or upgrade. Then you see their trash bin has like 600 gigs in it.
Oh, wow.
It's like, no, bro, you just empty it.
Oh,
just
man.
do that.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But
that's the kind of laptop I'll buy on Marketplace and get a sick deal on, because it's like some rich kid that has like a brand new M1 or something. They're like, yeah, I guess I filled it up with porn in the
Be like, yeah, just sell it to me. I'll take care of it. Don't worry.
Yeah, totally.
Not for the porn, just so I can format it, you know?
Yeah. Not for
of course.
Porn.
Right.
Yeah.
So family was like super musical. You grew up in that. I'm sure that was inspirational, being surrounded by that and all the different types of music your dad was listening to.
Yeah.
Came out of PlayStation into FL into Ableton Live. And are you still doing tutorials these days? Because I remember watching your tutorials, I don't know how many years ago. It was really solid. I know Ableton released several of your tutorials too.
Yeah. By tutorials, you mean like YouTube tutorials, right?
Yeah.
Or YouTube videos. Yeah. I've been kind of backing away from doing those videos lately, and just focusing more on writing music and teaching students, just because I really enjoy teaching. And making a YouTube video, it takes a long time, really. It really does.
Yeah.
And it's pretty frustrating, when you're using Adobe software that's crashing on you all the time, and then like, oh, the recording didn't work, so you got to redo it. And then you stumble on your words and stuff. And then you start questioning the whole topic of the video, and like, yeah, the editing probably takes the most amount of time.
It does.
And then just like doing the, recording, like doing the voiceover and like sitting here and being like, hello, I'm Slynk, here's what the video is about, and then explaining things. I'll write a script, but I want it to sound like natural, so I kind of like rehearse it, and then I'll end up changing the script. It just takes ages. It really takes ages. It's like 90% editing / recording myself doing things, and like 10% actually playing around in Ableton and like making something fun to show off in a video. And it's fun to share my ideas and stuff like that. And also, like sometimes sponsors hit me up and they got some cash for me. It's nice to be on the Ableton website with my tutorial, and it's cool to be able to help people. But yeah, I realized that I enjoy teaching more, because it's just like more one-on-one. It's kind of like in Australia, we have this like children's show called Mr. Squiggle, and the main character of the show, his name is Mr. Squiggle, and he's a puppet. His nose is a pencil, and he comes down to Earth in this spaceship, right? And and helps kids finish their drawings. And like the kid will just have like a fucking squiggle here and a line there and a circle there. And bro, Mr. Squiggle, he starts drawing. You're like, what the fuck is he drawing? And boom, they turn the drawing upside down. It's a dog. Holy shit. Then they turn it back around the other way. He keeps drawing some more. Now it's a fucking dude walking the dog or something, right? And he does that like 3 times. It's so cool. And so anyway, I feel like Mr. Squiggle when I'm doing a lesson, because a student will send me their project and they're like, what's wrong with this? How can I improve this? What's wrong with my mix? And I'm just like, boom, explosion of ideas. Put this here, like you should do that there. And then like, here's a bass line you could do maybe, and let's make a new bass line, and like, let's fix your drums. And it's just so fun. And then like the student is just like, they get to see their project from a different viewpoint, from a different angle through my eyes, you know?
Yeah.
And I just enjoy it a lot more. So
yeah, man.
Maybe I'll get back to the YouTube videos at some point when I have a really good idea that I just have to share on YouTube. But for now, I've been taking a...
You could start a new alias project, call it Mr. Squiggles, and you could produce music and dress up like a pencil on stage. That would be amazing.
Oh, yeah.
I'd pay tickets to see that.
Totally.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I totally feel you though, man. I went through the same journey myself with creating tons of video content and creating a bunch of YouTube tutorial videos. And in the end of the day, yeah, it was cool. Like I got some more lessons out of it. Like people hit me up for lessons, but I'm not sure the ROI was necessarily worth it for me because I wanted to use my time elsewhere, working on my own music, focusing on this podcast and other areas. And not to say that it can't be profitable, because some people are making serious money off of YouTube, you know. But
the amount of effort they put into it, though.
Yeah, they put a lot into it to make it worth their time. Yeah.
I think I kind of reached a point with YouTube where I've kind of like outdone myself so much with the production that it just takes forever to do these videos now. With the... I got these lights and this new camera and like all like my very first video on YouTube, like first tutorial video is just like a screen share of my laptop and I'm using the laptop mic. There's no video of me and you can hear this buzz in the background. And then halfway through the tutorial, I'm like, oh, I had that muted. Hang on, let me do that again. And I don't even bother re-recording it or editing that out. And I just put it up. And like, you know, in that regard, doing tutorials is fucking easy.
Yeah.
But it's not like that, you know.
Not so much anymore. I think you could get away with that in like 2012 or whenever, you know, back in the day in the early YouTube algorithm, you could like upload like a real crappy video. And if it was a niche topic that people really wanted, it wouldn't matter. You get lots of views and likes. And now I think it's a little harder to cut through because people are stepping up their productions with videos.
And that's the other thing, like, it sucks when you put loads of effort into a tutorial video and then it doesn't do that great on the views. So, then you're just like, well, you know, fuck me, I guess.
No, 100%. It is really interesting though. Like you mentioned, I think Adobe or something earlier. I have several friends who are really into video editing these days, and they're talking about like AI and Premiere is like extremely mind blowing now. Like with it doing jump cuts, like it automatically cuts out fillers. If you say ums and likes, it'll like jump cut scenes and frames. It can do speech to text. It can do like morph cut, like it smooth transitions. It can do like auto coloring. It's getting really good. Wow. It's kind of cool to see that.
Yeah, I've always wanted to switch over to what's the other one that's free?
There's DaVinci.
Yeah, DaVinci.
Yeah.
Just haven't gotten that far. You know, you learn one software and it's like hard to like, I'm sure if I put the effort in, I could, I don't know, maybe I had like this template set up in Premiere, kind of like my logo and like how I usually do things with little presets and stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of hard to transition, but anyway.
Yeah. So as far as Ableton Live stuff goes, do you have any like favorite new updates with Live 11 that you've been using?
As far as like 10 to 11 or?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. it's hard to remember what's been added in 11 versus between 9 and 10.
I feel like
When
there's
did
a
they add
lot.
capture, like MIDI capture?
I think capture was a 10 thing.
Man, I use that all the time. That's the
Yeah,
best. I love that. It's so good.
same. It's nice
I
on the
wish.
push 3, they added a shortcut for that too, so it's a lot
Oh
quicker to
yeah,
access.
I was just gonna say I wish they had a keyboard shortcut for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great feature. I played around with drift a little bit. Not a ton though, but I am liking it so far.
Yeah, Drift is
It
amazing. And it's
it
in
does
all
seem
versions
like
of Live. So anybody can get it. If you buy a MIDI keyboard and you get a free copy of Intro, you have what I think is worth $100 synth. I think Drift is
yeah,
amazing.
it's cool. It's pretty limited and like the GUI is like it's a little bit confusing at times I find like
Mm,
I think it's mainly these like the mod boxes and stuff. It's not as clear as like say the matrix in Wavetable, which is very
yeah.
clear. You know what's happening where.
Wavetable was a beautiful, I think Wavetable is the most beautiful synth interface that Ableton's released.
Yeah. It's funny because like I I almost never use it. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it like it is so cool. You know what? If there was a way to create your own wavetables a little easier, then I think maybe I would use it more. Or if there was more like FM options,
Mm,
then it would to me it would feel like a more more of a competing synth to say Serum or Vital. But it's hard to be like, no, you know what? I'm going to use Wavetable instead of Serum or Vital. You know,
yeah.
like I don't know. If you don't have Serum, then you can just use Wavetable. You can just use Vital. So it's like
Mm.
it's a cool synth, but it seems I don't know. That's why I never use it anyway.
I think it also depends on what you're used to, you know? Like, there's nothing wrong with just marrying yourself to like one or two cents and just getting really
Yeah.
good at it, you know? Would you say that like Vital or Serum are like your main go-tos?
Nah. I still use Serum a lot. I
Mm,
don't use Vital very much, but I use Phase Plant a lot. That's
yeah,
probably my go-to. Phase Plant and Operator are like my favorite synths, I would
yeah.
say. Phase Plant, Operator, Serum are like my main three.
It's a solid lineup. I really
Yeah.
love your operator video. You actually taught me a few things. You made that, I don't know, a long time ago.
I
Ableton
made a
released
video
it.
about Operator, just like how good it is or something.
You did like some features, some different operator workflows.
Hmm.
I really like that a lot.
I should do that again because man, Operator is so insane.
Yeah.
Um, it looks so underwhelming, but man, you can get some cool stuff happening with it. My favorite part of Operator is the ability to draw your own waveform
Mm.
using the oscillator envelope thingy. You know, the view with all the line, all the like box,
The harmonics or whatever. Yeah.
the box graph thing. So cool. Like where every box is the next harmonic up. Genius.
Yeah.
Because in that way, it's kind of an additive synthesis because each one of those boxes is a sine wave that is the next harmonic up. So you can take every second one out, and you got a saw wave, a square wave, you know, or you can take just the bottom one out, and you've removed the fundamental, and you have all the frequencies on top. So you can have like a separate sub on a different oscillator. Like there's so much you can do.
Yeah.
Such an awesome synth. And like not even Phase Plant can do this kind of, well, actually, I guess in the Wavetable editor, you can like do this kind of additive synth style workflow. But yeah, I haven't found anything else really that allows me to just control which harmonic is playing at what
Mm.
volume. It's so cool.
Yeah, that is a nice visual feature and operator. I feel like
Super
I need to
cool.
spend more time playing in that, to be
Yeah,
honest.
actually, one of the best things to do is to just um, get like just one oscillator going and then go into the editor and just take all the boxes and put them down to 0 except for the very bottom box, which is your fundamental, and then just pick like 3 or 4 random ones, turn them all the way up, and then just play that into some like an amp or a saturator on hard clip or something, just distort the hell out of it. Sounds fucking cool.
Yeah. Yeah, amp, like, I feel like not enough people really appreciate amp for what it is.
Yeah,
It's like,
amp is pretty cool.
it really is. It's a great saturator alternative or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amp is more of a distortion like setup.
Yeah.
Saturator is more of a wave shaper. I guess they're kind of similar, but
Yeah.
when it comes to distortion, I usually reach for, I've been liking pedal sometimes, like put a
Pedal's
little pedal
cool.
on there.
Yeah, a little dry wet mix.
I still use, what's it called, overdrive? I still
Mm-hmm.
use overdrive.
Same.
But one I've been sleeping on that I've been trying to use a little bit more lately is the dynamic tube,
Yeah.
which like doesn't seem to do all that much. But what I've kind of come to realize is that if you have a hollow, square sounding sound and you want to bring back some of that saw wave warmth, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You can use the dynamic tube to do that.
Yeah.
It like brings back that saw wavy sort of warmth.
Yeah, it's got analog character built into it for sure.
Whatever it's doing, it's kind of adding those kind of frequencies back in. I wish there was a way to take a saw wave and make it more of a square wave, but you can't do that with stock Ableton effects. So instead, I use some of the kilohertz effects to do that. I'll use a snap heap. I don't know if you're familiar with kilohertz, but it's fucking awesome. All this shit's free, by the way. You get a snap heap, and then I'm just looking at my preset right now because I just did it once and saved it. Yeah, and then you put a comb filter on there and set it to 880 hertz, and then you use a note modulator. So,
I think you can actually share your screen if you wanted to
oh, can I?
in here. Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
Is there a share button for you?
Yep. Share screen. Yeah, so you get a snap heap, you put a comb filter down, you get a note modulator, and you just assign that to the comb filter and max it out. And then I just got like a dry wet knob here. So like I can even play you some audio to show you how this sounds. I'll get a saw wave, right? No, I'll get a saw wave.
And people listening, this is on YouTube. If you're listening on Spotify or whatever, you can go watch it.
Yeah. So can you hear that?
Yeah, it sounds like garbage, but that's fine.
It's probably like crazy loud maybe as well.
It works.
Okay, so that's a saw wave, and then we turn the snap heap on. Now it's more of a, square wave.
Yeah.
Because what you're actually doing is the polarity here is set to minus. So you're essentially using this comb filter to delete every second harmonic. Anyway.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
That's a cool hack. I mean, as far as forming something into a square wave, can't you do that with like the hard clip setting in Ableton Saturator?
No, that's not what I mean. Like when I say like square wave, I'm kind of talking about this. Like see how the every second harmonic is gone?
Yeah.
It has that hollow characteristic. If you have a saw wave and you distort the hell out of it, I guess that would make a square wave, but then you also need to distort the hell out of it. If you have a sound that has this hollow characteristic and you don't want to distort it anymore because you'll ruin the other harmonics and stuff, then if you use a dynamic tube, so let's check this out. Dynamic tube set up roughly like this.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to hear, but you can kind of hear some of that warmth, that like saw wavy warmth come back.
Yeah, for sure. It does. I was talking to Copycat, and he's like an absolute big fan of dynamic tube. He uses that on a lot of his bass sounds.
Yeah, true, right?
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's a good tip. Yeah, Kilohertz makes a lot of really cool plugins, and they're like most of them are free, aren't they?
Yeah, there's this whole essential box or pack, and there's so much free awesome shit in there.
Yeah.
Like the Transient Shaper is like my go-to Transient Shaper now.
Really?
I used to use isotope alloy too, and I still have it.
I love that. I wish they still supported that plugin. That was like my first isotope love.
Yeah, I know, me too. They replaced it with Neutron, and the Transient Shaper in there doesn't have as much options.
Yeah.
So I never used Neutron, but Alloy 2 was great. But something about the Heartz Transient Shaper, it's just so simple and so easy to use. It's got a built-in clipper, which usually I'm transient shaping Alloy and then clipping with some other plugin. You can't do that all in one plugin, but in Heartz Transient Shaper, it's just like one button and just turn the knob, turn that knob, done. You know, it's great.
That's really cool.
And there's also this free Heartz plugin called the nonlinear filter, which is so cool. I might need to share my screen again and show you this because
yeah, go for it.
I don't know when they added this, but it's fairly new, I think. Yeah, this is the nonlinear filter. It looks pretty like chill and like maybe not even that big of a deal, but let me play a sine wave. Yeah, there's these different modes. So if we crank up the drive, see how the filter shape gets all gnarly?
Oh yeah.
That's just a filter.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, the filter is like real. There's like anybody who can't see, the filter line itself of the filter is like all squiggly and distorted.
Yeah, it's sick, dude.
That's really cool. What a simple plugin. It only has like three knobs.
The other thing I use all the time is tape stop. This gives you like that classic, like.
That one's cool.
I use that all the time, like right before I drop.
Yeah, I use the Max for Live pitch drop one. It's very similar.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Pitch drop. I like how there's like a curve here as well, and you got a start time and a stop time.
Yeah.
And the other thing, and the Transient Shaper, which I'll just show you in the video real quick. Look how easy this is. This is how I usually set mine up. I just crank the speed up, and then this is like the amount that we're transient shaping. Soft clipper on, done. Now your snares sound banging. That's it.
It's that easy.
Don't fuck with these knobs because, like, unless you have like a massive tail on your snare, you can. Well, if you have it in a sampler, you can just fade it out. This is doing the same kind of thing.
Interesting. Yeah.
But maybe if you're using this on a drum loop, you might want to fuck with this. But I just do this.
That's good to know. I was listening to your snares on Spotify earlier today. I was boosting some of your streams, and I was like, "These are really crispy, really tight, poppy snares," and I like it. It's nice.
Yeah. Transient shaping and then soft clipping or hard clipping or whatever. That's how you get your transients to sound tight. Also, a lot of people forget that you can transient shape in reverse. So if there's a sound that has too much transient, you can always use this to reduce the amount of transients.
Yeah.
Maybe you're trying to sample this loop and there's like some fucking weird hi-hat in the background that's like way overbearing. You could probably use this to sort of dial that back with a negative amount of transient shaping.
Have you ever heard of the pack Transient Machines by Surreal Machines? It's an Ableton Live pack that I played with before. They have one called Impact. It gives you like a decent amount of flexibility. And it does pretty much the same thing, but I could show you. It's actually pretty dope.
It's a Max for Live thing?
Yeah, it's a Max for Live pack. It came out, I don't know how long ago, but...
What's it called again, sorry?
Transient Machines.
Transient Machines.
It looks like this. This is like a preset.
Oh yeah, I'm just going to download it.
This thing's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, it works. So you can like do low, mid, and high band. So you can do multi-band transient shaping.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's the same thing. So you can just pull back the attack, sustain, and then you can you go pretty deep into this thing. You can actually split the three. It has like an EQ built in again, like into each individual band. Or I'm sorry, like the low band, mid band, high band. So there's like an EQ built in there, and it shows you the crossover, and you can like change the crossover too. It's pretty wild.
Is it a free pack?
I think so. I want to say it is, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
But it's fun. Like play with it. I honestly don't use it a lot, but I forget who showed it to me, and they really liked it. I've used it a few times, so
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
yeah,
I just downloaded it and maybe I'll play with it.
yeah, try it out. That's the thing, man. There's like so many packs, and as a certified trainer, I get them for free. So I always get an email when a new one comes out. But like, dude, I don't
Yeah.
think I'll ever be able to go through all the packs. There's so
Yeah.
many.
You just like when you scroll down in your packs, you just see like available like 158 or something.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, I didn't even learn until maybe like a year ago that you can quickly, because like I was always worried about taking up all my computer hard drive space by downloading a bunch of packs and playing with them. But I didn't realize after you download one, you just right click and choose uninstall live pack, and it just removes it from your hard drive.
Oh, cool.
So, pro tip
Yeah,
for anybody
cool.
out there that didn't know that, download a bunch of packs, and you can always right click and uninstall them real quick later.
Yeah, if you don't like them, there's
Yeah,
so many fucking packs, man. Like
it's insane.
you could spend like a whole year going
Yeah,
through these packs and finding cool instruments and tricks and stuff. Pretty insane.
yeah, for sure. Do you have any packs that you've liked or have used?
I tend to use the Latin percussion one fairly often.
Yeah,
And the grand piano, like the just basic piano.
yeah.
But yeah,
Have you
otherwise not really. Like
have you
there's
played with
one pack.
Pitch Loop 89?
What's that?
Pitch Loop 89.
Do I have that one?
Yeah, have you ever played with it? It's a fairly newer one. I think it came out with 11.1.
Okay.
But I'm trying to remember what it's actually modeling. It's supposed to be similar to the hardware, the Publison DHM 89.
I've seen this now that I'm looking at it. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That dude, yeah,
Robert
Robert
Henke.
Henke. Isn't he the
He's the godfather of Ableton.
yeah, he's Ableton daddy.
He's Ableton daddy. Yeah.
He's got the one eyebrow with this kind of gray or whatever.
He's got a
Yeah,
real cool, thick German accent. Brilliant
yeah,
guy.
yeah.
Really, really nice, genuinely nice guy. Absolutely ridiculously brilliant. But yeah,
Totally.
he's the nuts and bolts of Ableton from the beginning.
Yeah, for sure. I haven't played with this, but I do remember seeing this pop up. I think it just didn't interest me all that much. Is it a granular thing? No, just pitch shifting.
Yeah, it's a pitch shifting device, but it creates like weird jittery shimmer delay effects. So it's kind of like a delay built into almost kind of like a granulator type of thing.
Kind of like grain delay, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, very
Yeah.
much so. Yeah, basically a pitch shifting grain delay is what it
It
is.
seems like more of a passion project. I haven't really played
I
with it.
think it was. Yeah,
Yeah.
Robert probably had a friend who had one, and they used to like nerd out and probably hang out in the studio, and just he's like, I need to make one of these.
Yeah.
Sure, that's what happened.
Probably, yeah.
So you speaking of Max for Live devices, you made Duck Buddy back in the day.
Me and some people
You
made it
yeah, you
together.
had a team of people that helped you create it. Like what inspired that, and maybe explain what it is.
Yeah, so Duck Buddy is it's just like a volume shaper that's MIDI triggered. So if you have a drum rack with MIDI on there and the MIDI is playing your kicks and snares, then you can use a Duck Buddy to listen to those kicks and then trigger a volume shape, which is there to basically sidechain your bass line. And the inspiration for the Max for Live device just came out of the fact that I was always using a dummy clip, like a dummy channel. I'd have this MIDI channel with a drum rack on it, and then like a 1 millisecond burst of noise to trigger the Live 8 and Live 9 compressors, so that the attack and release times were like actually usable. Because if you don't know, if you set a compressor to sidechain mode and then tell it to listen to your kick drum, you can't set the release time down shorter than the kick drum itself, really, unless you use the built-in EQ to isolate just the transient of the kick drum. But then if you change the kick drum later to a different kick drum, then all the sidechain in your whole project goes out of whack. So that's why I was using like a click on a different channel, and then I had the MIDI mirrored from my drum rack to my sidechain rack, triggering the sidechain triggers so that all the sidechain across my project would trigger correctly. And then you get a consistent result, even if you change the kick drum or whatever. It just seemed like such a hack. So I thought, wouldn't it be great if you could just send a MIDI signal straight to the sidechain compressor so that it would just activate? And it turned out that you couldn't do that until Ableton 11 was released. And just to be clear, like you can do that, but it's not accurate enough for it to be like useful as a sidechain. Like you need the volume to dip immediately even before the kick drum actually plays, right? So in Duck Buddy, we added like look ahead, so you can look into the future and anticipate a kick drum playing and then start to drop the volume so you don't get a click. So yeah, that's the inspiration. And then, people listening are probably like, well, what about LFO Tool and shit like that? Well, those plugins suck because of the routing. They do. They just suck. It sucks using LFO Tool because you need to broadcast your MIDI information to the LFO Tool. You can't have the LFO Tool listen to a MIDI signal. And what that means is that every time you add a new LFO tool, you also need to add a new external instrument sending that MIDI information to that LFO tool.
Can't you?
And then some people will be like, yeah, well, what if you just put all your shit that you want to sidechain in one group and then put one LFO tool in that group? Well, I want to sidechain things in different amounts. I've got a kick, I've got a snare. I want to, balance things. So it just wasn't like a useful workflow for me and many others. So yeah, that's why we created Duck Buddy, because on the Duck Buddy itself, you can choose which MIDI channel to listen to, and then you just put the Duck Buddy wherever you want on the project. Yeah, and it starts sidechaining.
Was Ableton Live's Shaper device before or after you made Duck Buddy?
That was before. So the Shaper is essentially like LFO Tool in just automatic mode. It'll like none of this is relevant to anyone who writes like 4 on the floor music, because that's easy to sidechain with like just a volume automation that like repeats every beat, right? But if you're writing syncopated music where kicks and snares land at different times, you can't trigger just a repeating LFO shape. And even with Shaper mapped to a gain knob, it's not sample accurate. So although it looks like it's working, it's not sample accurate. Yeah. So, and there's no look ahead.
Right.
So you can't remove the clicks and whatever. It's just problematic. So trust me, I looked into that.
Oh,
and that's why we started with Shaper. We actually opened up the Maxwell Live Shaper device and started editing it to include like a MIDI trigger. And then that's how really Duck Buddy was created.
No, I totally believe you. I downloaded it. I love the interface, by the way. It has a big duck on it. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
A lot of ugly plugins out there. So thanks for making yours fun.
Actually, I'm revisiting it at the moment with one of my friends, Robert. He's a Maxwell Live genius. I am not a Maxwell Live genius. I'm a Maxwell Live hobbyist, okay?
Yeah.
This guy's job is making Maxwell Live devices.
That's awesome.
And he's got heaps of really cool devices on his Gumroad. But I reached out to him to ask him if he would help me make some improvements to Duck Buddy. And so he's just doing it in his spare time for the love. I might end up, swinging him some cash or something like that, just for the love also. I mainly just want to make Duck Buddy's GUI look a little better, try to address some bugs. Yeah, just mainly make it more user friendly because there's too many knobs, too many controls, I think. And it's a bit like, oh, where do I start with this, like all these controls?
Mm.
At the time when we were making Duck Buddy, it was like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if you could also do this and also do that? Yeah. So if I was to confess, I actually don't use Duck Buddy on my projects just because, I don't know, the bugs sometimes scare me away. I feel like it's maybe I just get a lot of people complaining on my Discord server about this bug and that bug. And I'm like, whoa, I thought we fixed all the bugs, but maybe I'll
Yeah.
just use my old sidechain method here because that's always worked for me. It's never been an issue, but yeah. I want to actually start using Duck Buddy. And so for me to use it, I think I need to like improve the GUI and just make it more useful.
Welcome to the
Yeah.
life of a programmer. That's
Yeah,
something I
yeah.
could never do, man, being a full-time programmer. And do you know Toby Hunka, Ableton drummer? I've talked about him 100 times. But
Nope.
he and I worked on a recent Max for Live device called Resampler Pro that we're going to release probably after this or before this episode drops.
Mhm.
I'll send it to you. I'd love to hear what you think, but it's like the fastest way I know of to create sample packs. And when I first initially talked to him about it, he was like, "You sure you want to do this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, if you're willing to lift the heavy weight." He's like, "Okay, but you're going to respond to like all the questions and concerns from the flood of people that come to you and be like, 'Hey, this has a bug,' or 'Fix this.'" And he's like, "This has been my life for the last like 20 years." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, let's make really good instructions and pray for the best then, because I don't want to
Yeah.
respond to
Or
yeah.
do what I did and just release it for free because then it's like, it's free. So take
Yeah.
it or leave it, man.
That's right. It is free, and that's why we did that. Actually, it is
Yeah.
free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some people still like throw a couple bucks at me and whatever. And I appreciate that. But it is free. Like Duck Buddy is just free.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Love that.
I also been making some other Max for Live devices because I'm working on a new Ableton Essential toolbox. My toolbox has been for sale on my website for ages now, and people from all over the world and stuff have been buying it and using it. Actually saw like, Von Oliver, like the producer for Kim Petras. He was streaming, and then I saw him like drag in my like Ableton rack from my Essential Ableton toolbox. And I was like, holy shit, this guy's using my racks.
That's awesome.
So I'm working on volume 2, or like what I might end up calling like the ultimate Ableton toolbox, hopefully. And so I've been making a couple of extra tools, 2 of which I'm calling Spray, which is essentially disperser from Kilohertz.
Oh, really?
Which I made Spray because I wanted to learn more about what the fuck disperser does.
Yeah, I know
Like
it's
you
really
read
popular.
the description, it's like it's an all pass filter, blah blah blah. I'm like, what the hell is an all pass filter? I'm still kind of wrapping my head around that. So like to understand what's going on there, I decided to try and make it in Max for Live, and then I figured it out, and it actually perfectly phase cancels with Kilohertz disperser. So it's an exact reproduction of Kilohertz disperser, which is kind of cool.
That's really cool, man.
And it's actually a really simple patch. And I also made another Ableton Max for Live device that I call Expander, which again is, Polyverse Wider, the Infected Mushroom Wider plugin.
Yeah, it's a great plugin.
Yeah, it's good. I wanted to understand more about how that works. And so I set about trying to create a Max for Live patch that phase cancels with it perfectly, so that you're reproducing the exact same effect, right?
That's
and
cool.
I've got within a millimeter of it perfectly phase canceling, but there must just be some slight tunings. But essentially, that plugin is my Pass polarity widener rack, right, from my first toolbox, with all pass filters specifically tuned to kind of blur the low and high frequency range a bit to make the phase canceling issues a little less dramatic. That's what I did in the Max for Live patch.
Honestly, I don't even really know what an all pass filter is.
Yeah, an all pass filter is just instead of you cutting away any frequencies or whatever, you're just putting a twist in the polarity. So like at this point, all the frequencies on the left are just going to be upside down, and all the frequencies on the right will be like the same. So you're just kind of like flipping the polarity at a point.
Okay.
I think I'm understanding that right. Or as you know, like all pass filters have like cutoffs and shit, and like and resonance. So I think as it approaches the cutoff line, things start to turn upside down, phase related.
Yeah.
So it just fucks with the phase.
You're right, because I just Googled it, and it says an all-pass filter is a signal processing filter that passes all frequencies equally in gain, but changes the phase relationship among various frequencies. So yeah.
Yeah. So like I got this all pass filter on basically what is essentially my Haas polarity widener rack from the toolbox.
Cool.
My first toolbox. Yeah. And
Any idea when you're going to drop that?
Oh man, it's like an ongoing like project. I got so many more things I want to make.
Same.
I'm just stacking out the effects folder at the moment. I also want to make drums from scratch using Operator, and then make a drum rack that you can like adjust with some macro knobs. I think that would be really cool. Honestly, like Ableton 11, I think they added the extra macro knobs. And since then, I've been like rethinking the way I make racks and things, because it's cool how if you only need like one or two knobs, you can like remove the excess knobs and clean up the GUI.
Yeah.
Which I'm really enjoying.
Live 11's macro variations and like all the updates they did with the macro knobs and adding up to 16. A really, really nice update.
Yeah, for sure.
Have you played with Smooth Automator?
No.
Smooth Automator lets you be really specific in how you transition between macro variations. So right now, if you were and you can automate that happening as well on a track. So for example, if you had, say, 3 different macro variations, so you create 3 patches of one rack that you really love, then you can you could trigger the variations to change, but rather than it just jumping immediately and jumping and snapping, which could sound really like abrasive, it just allows the knobs to slowly change to the next position and the next variation.
Right. Yeah, you're talking about the new like macro variation thing, right?
Exactly, yeah. So you
So
can get
instead of
really crazy results using Smooth Automator with creating like wild bass noises changing in one single track in a rack.
Yeah, I guess in that way, if you got like 8 knobs and you just set them from A, like point A, all different spots, and then you save that, and then you save a point B, it like morphs between those 2 positions
Exactly.
over time. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Rather than automating everything or putting that rack into another rack and making one macro knob that swaps between the 2. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Is that a Max for Live device?
It is. Yeah, I think it's a paid one. I want to say it's like $10 or something. I forget, but I think it's totally worth it. I have to give a shout out to Zach Allstetter from Boulder, Colorado. He did a Denver user group event a while ago I was also at, and he showed like a bunch of he just mapped a bunch of stuff in Wavetable and then used Smooth Automator just to create like subtle changes over time with it, and it was really cool.
Yeah, it sounds like a cool idea. I don't know if I would use it personally, because I tend not to like go down that workflow, really. Like if I'm macroing something, it's like usually I'm just putting everything on the one knob and just like setting the ranges and going like that.
Yeah. I think it's a good way to also make mud pies. Like if you just want to do some sound design to resample, that could be a really good way to do it too.
Yeah. I guess you can, isn't there like a macro control variation option to just randomize everything? Oh yeah, you can just click the randomize macro control values button.
Yeah.
So you could just click that a few times and then create some new macro variations and then just automate between them and get some wild results.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's a fun workflow. I think are you on tour like soon? I think you're going on tour pretty soon, aren't you?
Oh man, I'm just playing shows all the time pretty much.
I see that. Yeah.
I did like a tour poster like earlier this year, but I've just been playing shows nonstop since then, since that tour ended, and I just haven't had time to make another poster or anything. I'm just like, here's the next show, like, here's the next show.
Yeah.
Basically, like, since Shambhala, I've just been playing a show every weekend or every other weekend at some festival or club since then, and all the way till the end of October. So this weekend, I'm in Alaska.
Wow.
I'm playing at Sacred Acre. And then the weekend after that, I'm playing a little show in Victoria, BC. Then in October, I'm coming to Denver to play at
Yes.
Cervantes,
Yes.
supporting Artifacts. And
That'll be a
and
dope
I'm also
show.
playing at Red Room in Vancouver at the start of October. And then at the end of October, I'm playing in Calgary. So still lots of shows to go. Yeah.
So you must be so bored. You have nothing to do.
I know, right? Plus all my lessons and stuff. So I've been thinking about putting the word out, to open up applications again. But yeah, maybe I'll get more into that in November once the shows calm down a little bit. But if you're listening and you are interested in taking some lessons with me, you can go to my website, slynk.net, and then or slynk.net/services, and there's a button there which will take you to a Google form and just fill it out. It sends me an email and I'll get back to you.
Yeah. Are you still doing mixing or mastering work for people who send you their tracks?
Yeah, absolutely. That work is not as often as my lessons. Just sometimes a lot of people need their shit mastered. Other times I don't hear from anyone. I'm also not actively advertising that service. It's just whenever people hit me up, I'm like, absolutely, I can help you out with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like even if someone hit me up and said, can you mix master this? I'd be like, let's get on a Zoom call and let me teach you what I'm doing, let's make it a lesson at the same time as me doing it.
Yeah.
And then at least you know a little bit better about how to do it yourself. And then you won't need to pay me next time to do it for you. Because honestly, mastering for one thing is fucking easy, I think.
I think mixing is harder than mastering, honestly.
Absolutely. Mixing is harder than mastering.
Yeah.
Because mixing that has the most effect on the way the song sounds. Like if your kick drum is 12 dB louder than everything else, you can't fix that in mastering, no matter how good your AI isotope shit is. It doesn't. No.
Yeah.
Mastering is just do I have the overall tonal balance correct? Is it loud enough? Is it hitting a certain number of lofts? Render. That's it. That's what mastering is. But mixing, that takes hours. That is involved. We're talking EQing this kick drum a little bit, side chaining that, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Stereo width and all this. That's mixing. And I think probably people listening to this podcast, when they think mastering, they actually mean mixing. Back in the day when audio engineers only mixed and mastered bands, then mastering is more just okay, the mixing happens when they record it, right? And that's one shot. They set things up with the mic and then that's it.
Yeah.
And mastering becomes a more involved process where you've got all the stems and you're doing a stem master, what we would call a stem master. But in electronic music, if you're doing a stem master, which is still better than just a master, by the way, you still can't fix certain things if things are combined together in a stem. Like if you send me a drum stem, and again, your kick drum is 12 dB louder than your snare, I can't fix that, unless I do some surgical Frankenstein shit where I cut every kick out and then reduce the volume,
Sounds terrible.
Yeah, it'd take a long time. Yeah, so yeah, I think that's why people they say mastering when they really mean mixing. And if you want to get good at if you want your songs to sound amazing, then you need to get fucking good at mixing. And it's really hard.
It is, man. And there's a lot of factors too. It's
so many factors.
So many factors, what kind of speakers or headphones are you using? Do you have the right tools to get it loud enough? Blah, blah, blah.
I mean, for my new track Energize, I spent, I think, a full 2 days mixing and mastering that. And this was off after we already mixed as we went, like writing the song. But it
Yeah.
was just like going back in and being like, okay, we're going to get it perfect this time. And I just went in and just, man, I think the hardest part of mixing that song was to get all of the different bass sounds to match.
Yeah, that's hard, especially when you have a lot of basses.
You've got your limiter at the end of the mastering chain. So I have that on while I'm mixing, right? And I'm trying to balance the amount of sub and like higher frequency content from, bass A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and I'm listening to A, then I'm listening to G, then I'm listening to F, and I'm listening to all these different basses, tweaking the sub level, tweaking the high frequency content.
Yeah.
And that's just to get the tonal balance correct. Then you've got to think about loudness. How loud is this sound? Is it matching loudness? So I'm looking at the loft meter. And then it's like, well, what about stereo width? This one sounds a little more narrow than this one sounds more wide. So you got to check the stereo width. Then you got to go back and look at the tonal balance because you've changed like the width and the loudness. Maybe the balance of the tone has been thrown off. So you got to go back and check that. And then you tweak all the basses, and then you're like, well, now the drums don't sound very good. So you it's a long process. It's a lot. It just takes time and fiddling, basically. But
it's true, man.
I nailed that mix.
You did. I listened to it in my car speakers, which are pretty decent, and I turned it up today as I was going to get my haircut, and it sounded amazing. It sounded really good. I was thinking that too. I was like, the bass is really balanced with the drums. That was my first thought. So you did great.
It's definitely really hard to make your kick drum sound fat and then also have the sub bass across all your basses match the exact same dB level or same loudness, Yeah. It's really, really tricky. Plus, you've got sidechain as well cutting into the bass, so you got to account for that. But yeah, for anyone listening and watching or whatever, like I mix and master all of my songs. So if anything you hear on Spotify, you're like, damn, that sounds good. That's because I did that. There's no label. Like, I don't just send that off to some engineer that does it. Like, that's me. I write the song, I mix the song, I master the song. And sometimes I even make the artwork and release it myself. Yeah, it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, artists wear pretty much all the hats these days.
Yeah, totally.
And I was in a phase where I was like just getting really solid mixes and sending them off to a mastering engineer I liked. And then I talked with Nolan. I don't know if you know Frequent.
Yeah.
We were chatting it up, and he was just telling me, he's like, dude, I think having other people master your tracks is a scam. And I'm like,
it fucking is.
What are you talking about? Yeah. And he's like, no, dude. He's like, for real. Like, if you can learn the basics to teach yourself, get good at mixing. And then if your mix is solid, just like do the tweaks necessary and keep grinding on it until it's done. And not only that, but for whatever reason, if somebody else masters your track and you think it's good, and by chance you go out and play it at a club or something, and you need something tweaked, then you probably have to pay that dude to go back and like rebounce it. But rather than going back into your mix, you might hear new things or a change you want to make in the drums or something. You don't have that flexibility as if you just open the project.
Yeah. I think like whenever, like if you're paying someone, this is like, I'm like selling myself like the opposite way, because I mean, although I offer like mastering, I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll shove your fucking song through a limiter and send it back to you for $50. No problem, dude. But I will try to sell you the mixing, because if you send me your shitty song and I'm like, ooh, I mean, yeah, I'll shove it through a limiter if you want, man, for $50. But it really has some bad mix problems. Like, can you at least send me the stems? I'll do a stem master for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, mixing, dude, like, yeah, it's a total scam. And if you're sending your shitty song to some mastering engineer and they're charging you 20, 30, $50, it's a waste of fucking money, because they're just slapping isotope ozone on there and then rendering it and bounce it and sending it back to you. That's it.
Yeah.
That's literally it.
Yeah.
People trust these people so much, and they spend 5 minutes on that shit. Trust me. That's what I'll do.
Yeah.
That's what I'll do to your song.
I mean, usually you get what you pay for, right? And I think when it comes to mastering, that's even more so.
I think I can't remember. I charge like $100 US for any studio work. So a mix a mix plus a master. You got 5 minutes of mastering, and then like probably 4 to 6 hours of mixing. So I'll charge you like $400 to $600, depending on how long it takes to mix and then master your song. You know, but to mix it, we're talking 4 hours, 5, 6 hours. You know, and like I'm not doing that for $50. Tell you that. Tell you that much, man.
Right.
Fuck that. And no one else is doing that for $50 either. So you're wasting your cash.
Yeah.
Just buy yourself some beers, watch some YouTube tutorials, and learn how to do it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fully agree with Frequent there. A guy's smart.
Yes. Dude, yeah. I used to help with the Ableton Denver user group events and asked him if he would present at one. And he like spent like an hour talking about the Nyquist theory.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I was just sitting there. I was like, I followed him for like a solid first like 20 minutes. And then after that, I was like, I have no idea what he's talking about now.
Was it like related to anti-aliasing and all this shit?
Yeah, it was about that.
Yeah.
And then he took a bunch of rabbit turns, like a bunch of rabbit trails, and just started going off into other stuff. I was like, I've never even heard of these words. Like he's really smart guy.
Yeah.
Really.
That's something that I've learned a little bit more about lately when I dove deeper into learning about soft clipping and wave shapers in general.
Yeah.
Because soft clipping and shit is hot right now. Like everyone's talking about soft clippers, and there's all these people on the internet like just like, I don't even put a limiter on my master. I just bounce it hot straight out of Ableton, and there's a secret built-in like clipper in Ableton. I'm like, or you could just use a clipper and then you have more control over what's happening. But the more I looked into clippers, I started, when I'm trying to learn anything to do with audio, I'm like, I'll try and build it in Ableton Max for Live. I made a clipper in like 5 minutes, but it had so many problems because when you put like a super sharp corner on a waveform, say you boost a volume a lot into a clipper, a hard clipper, that corner that gets created, like let's say it's a sine wave, you shove the top of a sine wave into a hard clipper, it becomes this sharp corner, right? That sharp corner will create an infinite number of harmonics to go way up the frequency spectrum. And then they hit the Nyquist, which is double your sample rate, and start bouncing back. So you end up getting these like bullshit frequencies way down lower in the spectrum. And so that's what anti-aliasing strives to prevent. And you can't filter this away because the reason they bounce back is because your DAW doesn't understand what 96,000 kilohertz frequency is, because its sample rate is, or it's set to 48,000 hertz. So if it receives a 96,000 hertz sample, it'll just treat it as like a, maybe 90 hertz instead or something like that. It bounces back, right?
It just becomes like more white noise fuzz that's inserted into the mid-range usually of your mix. Yeah.
It's basically frequency content that is being incorrectly defined by your DAW because it has no idea what these numbers are. So it's just like, I guess we'll just shove them somewhere in the mid-range or whatever, because that's the only way we can understand it. So then I started looking at anti-aliasing, and it's like, that's a whole crazy problem where it's like, basically you need to learn how to make a filter that happens before the thing happens. And that's where I started to check out. It's beyond the scope of my brain.
It was funny because before I even knew that, I would like really distort multiple sounds, like leads and stuff. And then I would wonder sometimes, like, why does my music sound fuzzy? It just has like a soft fuzz to it, and it just didn't sound pleasant. And then I did some research, and I started realizing some of that happened because, like, if you're over distorting harmonics that are like way above your hearing range, the frequency spectrum, that can cause a lot of that too.
Yeah, I mean, like, it depends on the plugins you're using. Like, if it's a decent plugin, it should have like anti-aliasing built into it, and most things do. Like, I know, like, FM synthesis, for example, has to be like a synth has to be set up correctly to deal with frequency modulation, so that it's being anti-aliased, because you can end up with infinite like resonance or whatever that just go outwards from like down the frequency spectrum and up the frequency spectrum from the note you're playing with frequency modulation. And so there's this like part in the equation that needs to be set a certain spot so that you don't get this like anti-aliasing happening. Basically, it's anti-aliasing built in. So, you know, Serum, if you FM oscillator A from B or something and you turn the knob up, it probably has some kind of anti-aliasing built into it. And then same with like the Wave Shaper in Ableton, the soft clipper button there, it will have like anti-aliasing built in.
Right.
And you can, you'll know when something has anti-aliasing when you put your mouse over the title bar in Ableton and it shows that it's producing some latency. Yeah, look at that. Well, don't look at it because I'm just looking at it on my screen, but I just threw a saturator on a channel and turned soft clip mode on and then hovered my mouse over the title bar of the saturator, and in the bottom left corner it says latency 4 samples. So it takes 4 samples of time to prevent the aliasing happening from this soft clipper.
Yeah.
You can put a patch, like you can put a Serum patch in and FM something and you'll probably see that that plugin is causing latency in Ableton. Yeah. And that'll be the anti-aliasing. Because one of the techniques of anti-aliasing is to pretend that your sampling rate is double what it is and then filter stuff so that it doesn't go above what you want it to go above, and then pretend that it's back to the same. And that takes a bit of time to calculate. And so there needs to be latency added. Yeah.
Well, and oversampling can help with that too, right?
That's what it is. Yeah. You pretend that like your sampling rate is double the thing or quadruple or like, 8 times the sampling rate. Yeah. That's what oversampling is. You just,
So for people who don't know that, like, for example, if you right click on the EQ8 device, you can turn on oversampling. Or like certain plugins, like Pro L is a great example of that. Has oversampling, I think up to like 32 times or something like that. But
you only really need like 4. I think 4 is a sweet spot because
that's what I've always been told. At least 4,
because as you filter things away, you can never really prevent aliasing ever, but the trade-off is like, well, it is aliasing. Those frequencies are bouncing back down into the frequency spectrum of actual human hearing, but they're so quiet that it doesn't matter. Maybe they're coming in at like negative 60 dB and you're like, whatever.
Yeah.
That's good enough. I don't need my project running at like 1 second delay when I hit the space bar. So times 4 is like you're removing like 98% of aliasing, and then times 32 is just like they just added that for the esoteric audiophiles and whatever,
just to please people.
Those people that think it's doing a good job but don't actually. They're like, Fab Filter's probably like, okay, we'll add it, but here's a bunch of reasons why you shouldn't ever use it really, but we'll add it if you want. Like, fuck.
Well, and I've noticed too where I just went ham on oversampling every single plugin in a big project. Like, my computer just starts crying, and then I'm creating more latency with my project, and my side chaining feels like a little at a time because the computer's trying to compensate and it gets a little weird. So it's a weird dance.
Yeah, and like the other thing is like aliasing is only a problem if it is a problem. You don't always need to be anti-aliasing things.
Right.
Maybe those frequencies do bounce back down, and maybe that gives you the kind of sound you're after. Maybe that sounds cool. It might harmonically work in a cool way, or it might add a bit of grit or something to the sound that's actually pleasurable. So, it's not always a requirement to, aliasing's evil and stuff. Like, it can produce unwanted frequencies and unexpected results. And that's why the ability to oversample and anti-alias is built into a lot of things. But the FM thing especially, that will fuck your shit up. So synth designers will put those like anti-aliasing measures in. It's part of the actual equation though. So I was reading this book about FM synthesis and how this wild equation works. It was kind of over my head a little bit. I'm just reading the text. When you're like reading a book and then you get to the end of the paragraph and you're like, I don't know what that fucking means. Then you
Let me
gotta
read
read it
this again.
Yeah, I was like that. I bought this crazy book about like Maxwell Live and stuff, and it's got all these really cool like examples and explanations for things, including FM synthesis and soft clipping and EQ design and stuff like that. It's a really cool book, actually.
Do you know
It's
what
called
the name of it?
yeah, Generating Sound and Organizing Time by Graham Wakefield and Gregory Taylor. And
I'll
you
check
can
that
buy
out.
it on the cycling74.com website under
That's cool.
cycling74.com/books/go for generating and organizing.
I didn't
And
know Cycling 74 like sold book.
yeah, this is book number 1. I'm really stoked for book number 2 because apparently they go into even more anti-aliasing techniques and theories. But it's such a cool book. It's like something to buy and then throw in your DJ bag, and then when you're chilling at the airport and you're just killing time because your flight's delayed again, you can pull it out and have a read, and makes you feel smart because you're reading a cool book with lots of
Yeah.
diagrams and long words and stuff.
And if you don't understand it, just put it on a bookshelf where everybody can see it so they know how smart you are.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I should mount mine on the wall behind me.
You really should. Be
Yeah.
really impressive. Just
It
have
is
like
a
a
really cool
spotlight
book.
on it.
Would highly recommend if you're interested in actual live stuff. I wouldn't buy it if you're a beginner though. It's fucking insane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds pretty advanced. That would be a fun read. I feel like I'd really enjoy that if I understand half of it. Yeah, man. I got to pee so bad, I'm not going to lie. Can I go pee real fast and then we can wrap this up?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
All right, one sec. Don't go anywhere.
All right, I might do the same.
That was so necessary. Thank you for your patience.
Yeah, I did the same thing real quick as well.
Yeah, dude, I was about to explode. So what's next for you? Obviously, you've got a tour coming up. Any projects you're stoked about?
I'm just always playing shows. I don't know if it's what is a tour really? It's just like a bunch of shows on a poster, but I'm always playing shows, so
Yeah, true.
What's next? I got those songs coming out that I was talking about before. At some point, I actually just have like a bunch of songs that are just unreleased that need to be released. So I think I have like 8 songs or something just sitting there, and I'm like starting more projects. So yeah, it's just, I think releasing music is my least favorite part about writing music because it just takes ages.
Yeah.
You deal
Yeah.
with some label and they have some release schedule, so you got to wait like 3 months before your release date, and then there's like you got to get the artwork, you got to get the video assets, and then you got to get the the pre-save link sorted, and then everyone's got to sign this thing so that it's like all the royalties are split and whatever. Oh my god, it takes
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to get myself back into the mindset now of where I was before I took music seriously as like any type of career path, where like I would literally just work on tracks, whether it was garbage or not. I was having a blast doing it. And I think that's like important to have kind of that like childhood or childlike mentality of making music just for the absolute love and the joy of it. It's easy to get lost in that,
Yeah.
especially when you have expectations and a pipeline of content you have to push out.
Yeah, it's just 2 parts to the job. Like,
Yeah.
one part is the fun part where you're writing the music and getting stoked on the song, and then the other part is now you got to mix it and master it and finish it and then release it. And that's like always the 90% of the work's done. You just got to finish that last 10%, and it's not hard. It just takes. It's just not as fun as like the first 90% was, where you like writing the song, coming up with the idea and stuff.
That's really true.
And if you do it wrong, then your 90% of work writing the song, all the effort you put into making that song sound really cool, is kind of wasted. So you sort of need to nail the release so that it gets the attention it deserves. You get a lot of people listening to it and enjoying it. But if you release it poorly or don't market it correctly and whatever, then it'll just fly under the radar and no one will care about it. And then you'll just feel shit about yourself and about your music, So it's like, you got to sort of, that's how I'd try to push through to the finish line, is like, well, this song, I put a lot of work into it, and now it, you know, really deserves the attention and all the marketing and the effort here in this final part of the
Mm.
song release, you know, and all those Instagram stories and crap. It's just like, you're basically just saying, look at this song. I put heaps of work into it. Like, check it out, please. You should check it out. If you like my other stuff, you'll like this one too, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I got a lot of that to do towards the end of this year.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm going to keep working on my next Ableton toolbox.
Yeah.
And
I'm stoked for that. I'll definitely download it when it's out.
yeah, I'm going to keep doing my lessons. I've really been enjoying teaching. It's just so fun. It really is. I really, really enjoy it. And the people that, the guys that I teach are really cool. They're improving so much.
Cool.
It's awesome to see them like dropping songs on Spotify. And then some of my like DJ friends are like catching wind of these songs and then playing them in their sets. And it's like, whoa, this is so cool. I feel like a proud father, you know?
Yeah.
My boy, he's growing up so fast.
Yeah, proud dad moments. That's how I feel about my students too. It's like little children, just like little birds spreading their wings and flying when they finish like their first great tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah, for sure.
rewarding feeling for sure.
Yeah, it's very rewarding.
Well, I know you're a great teacher, man. I've seen like videos and stuff and teachings and workshops or whatever you've done, and really solid. So anybody listening, 100% recommend checking out Evan, aka Slynks stuff. Yeah, and I think it's cool. Like I really like the variety of tracks you're releasing. Like a lot of the stuff, your older stuff was very funky, and now it's like drum and bassy and like definitely I think
Yeah,
it's
all styles these days. I
yeah.
mean, yeah. Hip hop song, boogie song, got that like techno Viking came out. That's like, what would you even call that? Kind of like synthwave bass or something.
Yeah.
And then the Keep the Funk Real, that's like a classic like glitch hop track. And then Busted is somewhere between glitch hop and I don't know, dubstep, I guess. And Meant to Be, that's a drum and bass song. And then yeah, I even got like this R&B sort of song I released a while back. Like I'll just write anything.
I love that. No, I mean, and I think that's important as a producer to keep growing, because if you just stick to
Yeah.
doing the same thing over and over, I don't know, I would get super bored first of all, and like you wouldn't be as good in the end.
Yeah, for sure. I like to be challenged in different ways. Like when I was writing High Class with Saucy Lady, that was it's a first of all, completely different style of music than I usually write and release. And then I was also dealing with female vocals, which I've only done a couple times before. So I had to really brush up on my like vocal processing skills. And it was just like a fun new problem that I don't run into as often to solve. And, you know, I'm setting up my hotkeys in Melodyne and I'm just like real fast at auto tuning now. Not auto tuning, but like manually like pitch correcting things.
Yeah.
And then processing. Yeah, like don't tell her, but I did have to pitch correct her just a little bit. Don't tell her though. A little bit.
Pretty sure you and like 99% of other producers that mix vocals. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to do the pitch correction first and then you got to do the processing. And
that's a real pain in the ass, to be honest with you. I don't know how much I really enjoy doing vocal like pitch correction. It's a real, it can take a lot of time, depending on who the vocalist is too, obviously. But
it's actually kind of an art, hey, because if you pitch correct something too much or too aggressively, then it sounds really unnatural.
Yep.
And so you've got to like kind of force yourself to not pitch correct certain parts so that it sounds a bit more natural. And I think I watched this YouTube video on some like, I think it was a British dude, and he was like, yeah, here's how I do it. Then I was like, I deleted everything that I'd done and started again from scratch. I had it finished. Yeah, and I just started again from scratch.
Wow.
I did the same thing in Mellow Kind of Hype. Like we recorded the Mark Woodyard verse. I get all my rappers to do like at least 4 takes of the entire verse all the way through, exactly the same timing and words, so that I can pick through and do my own like kind of ad libs to accentuate different lines in the verse. We recorded it 4 times all the way through. Then we did a bunch of layers for like the singing parts so that it was all harmonized and shit. And then I went through and time aligned everything manually and pitch corrected his singing. And then we deleted everything and re-recorded it again. And then I did all that again. It took me like 12 hours or something to get all the vocals for that track like dialed. But I'm really happy with the result. It sounds fucking amazing.
Yeah, it sounded good. I heard that track too recently. I'm sure in the process, as you're recording a billion takes of him, he's maybe like questioning how good his skills really are. He's like, damn it,
No,
everyone hates
actually,
this.
you know, Mark Woodard, the guy who comes in on the first verse.
Yeah.
I was so impressed with like how amazing, like he's just, you can tell he's a real performer, like a professional, because he did those 4 takes in 4 takes, you know?
That's
He
awesome.
just rolled up to the mic right here in the studio, this microphone, right? And just rolled up, spit his verse, and then spit the verse a second time. I'm looking at the waveform and I'm like, the timing is like, it's nearly perfect.
That's
and
cool.
The tone of his voice matched like almost identical. And I was kind of in awe actually, because I've worked with, you know, some different vocalists in the past, and they just, you know, there's that stage in the vocalist verse creation where they're not quite sure exactly how they want to say it. So they just do it different every time they record it. And you're like, come on, man, just pick one way and do it 4 times.
Yeah.
It's 3 because we're doing a 3-finger pan. We're pan one left, pan one right, and then one down the middle, right? And then the 4th one is just in case like one word sucks or you know, so I can swap it out. Then I don't need you ever again. You know, I've got my 4 takes. But yeah, Mark, man, he just nailed it all 4 times. And then another 4 times when he came in to re-record it. We just got him to re-record it because his energy was like not quite matching what we wanted it to be.
Yeah.
So Dunks from Lazy Syrup came in and sat in on the studio session, and he's kind of like coaching him like, yeah, get like real fucking hype on it, man. Like, yeah, pop, pop, lick a finger, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you got to have that energy.
Yeah. The first time he did it, he was kind of just like, pop, pop, lick a finger, like, you know, real like chill style, which I thought sounded real sexy. But yeah, we wanted to go for sexy, but also hype. Mellow, but kind of hype.
Right. Like a sexy Red Bull kind of energy. Yeah, I understand that feeling. I recently recorded and tracked a female vocalist. She has a great voice, but I could tell she was nervous for whatever reason. And so then like, I feel like half the time when you're recording vocals, you're also a therapist because you're trying to get the person in the flow state or whatever you want to call it, where they're just like vibing and then getting into the place where they're just in a good headspace.
Oh,
Like that's
yeah.
half the battle, I feel, of tracking
Yeah,
vocals.
that is like part of like that's a skill set that you need to develop as a producer.
Yeah.
Being able to coax and coach like the best performance out of your like recording artist. Like, yeah, I've had rappers send me like a verse and I'm just like, it literally sounds, I can hear you reading off the paper. You need to memorize this and then do it without looking at the paper.
Yeah.
And then with it memorized, they can focus more on the performance, and then it's performed better and it just sounds so much better.
Yeah, vocals.
But yeah.
I would say vocals are probably the hardest thing to record out of any instrument for sure. Like, because there's so many different factors. Obviously, the type of mic for the right person's voice, and then you also need that person to interact with the mic, right? So it's like if you're going to belt it out and scream, don't stick your lips on the microphone screen. You know, like you got to interact and play with it, and it's like a real skill set, man. I mean, it's nice when you find a good vocalist who can do those things. It makes your job hella easier.
Yeah, like Mark, who just like nails it every time.
Yeah, shout out to Mark.
Yeah. I think that just separates like amateurs from like professionals. You can tell like Mark is like he's a professional.
Yeah.
And yeah, it helps that he's like a really good performer as well and oh man, I feel like bad because I'm not saying all these nice things about Soren as well. He did the second verse. He also fucking nailed it.
Yeah.
But we didn't have to re-record his verse twice. So that's why I haven't mentioned him yet. But
Mark just needed a nap maybe the first time.
Yeah,
I think sleepy.
Yeah, I just had Mark in the studio on his own, and then Soren on his own, and so I recorded everyone individually and then put it all together. We recorded everyone came over to the studio, and we all did the chorus together. But I think it was just like we weren't all together for Mark's verse, so we weren't really sure what the vibe was supposed to be. Yeah, he took the comments like the critiques on his performance like professionally, and was just like, yeah, you're right, let's redo it, and he fucking delivered. Fucking legend, actually.
Shout out,
I
shout
love
out
those
to
guys.
him. Love that.
Yeah, I had a great time like making Mellow Kind of Hype with the Lazy Syrup Orchestra boys.
Yeah, those boys,
They're
they
all
tear it up.
Vancouver based.
I love their music.
Yeah.
I've been following them for a while too.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have them
That's
on the
why I
board.
hit them up. Like,
Where are they
I
from?
was like, let's put they all live in Vancouver.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was like, let's do the collab. Like, here's an idea. And I emailed them. So I was like specifically hoping to work with those guys, and I'm glad we like got it together.
Yeah. Vancouver seems like there's like a lot of good music in that scene.
Yeah, there is. There's heaps of us living here now. Like Father Funk just moved to town.
Oh, cool.
Woofax just moved here as well. And then you got like Long Walk Short Doc, who's like a Canadian legend. You probably don't know him because he's more known for his performances and he doesn't really get to the States that much. But holy shit, he's a fucking performer.
I'll have to check him out. I'm not too familiar.
Yeah. Well, like he really needs like a YouTube video. Like I feel like if you heard his song on Spotify, you'd be like, okay, but dude, his performance is where it's at. So yeah, he lives in Vancouver.
Sick.
Commodity lives here as well.
Yeah, he was on the podcast like episode 20 or something like a long time ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Commody's a good dude. We wrote a song together a while back, and he's been hitting it up on YouTube tutorials as well. So we've been connected. Who else is living in Vancouver?
Is Dylan ill.Gates? Is he?
Yeah, ill.Gates. Fuck yeah, ill.Gates lives down the road as well.
Yeah, he was on the pod a long time ago.
Sometimes. Yeah, he's a nice dude, real nice, and his dogs are super cute. His daughter is really cute. Yeah. His studio is so cool as well. He's like surrounded by all this blinking lights, hardware shit. I'm just like, all right, I got my computer and mouse. Like,
yeah, he's an analog head for sure.
He's like, dude, let's just sample this oscillator from this like analog synth I've got, and we'll put that in like a sampler, and then distort that and whatever. I'm like, or we could just use phase plan. I don't know, man. Like,
he's like, nah, we got to do this. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm glad he asked me to do that remix of Smoke because I think it turned out really good. Again, another different style of music that I wrote, kind of like a G-funk vibe.
Yeah.
I just felt like you needed to be rolling down the street to that song.
Love it. I'll have to check that out. I don't think I've heard that one.
Oh, you haven't heard that one?
I don't think so.
Yeah, dude. It's the ill.Gates and Def 3 Smoke Slynk remix. And there's a picture of ill.Gates and he's like smoking a cigarette, a joint.
That marijuana. Oh yeah, it is Bill Gates smoking weed.
Yeah, he's got a gold chain on.
Him in his natural habitat. That's funny.
Another song that has been slept on is my That's Right remix. The original song is by Jason Eli, and I remixed it. We put it out. We had some serious issues with releasing the song.
Really?
So, and I think that's why it's just completely tanked. It only has 1,000 plays, where like most of my other songs have like, I don't know, 20, 30K plays. But this one only has 1,000. And I think something just went really wrong with the release. And
was it through a label or was that a self-release?
Yeah, like I didn't have anything to do with the actual like distribution part of it. And so I think it was either Jason Eli who reported the wrong information, or the label like that he was going through messed it up somehow. But we had to actually remove the release and then re-release it. And
oh no,
dude, it was just honestly like,
hate to see that.
Yeah, these kinds of things happen a lot. I feel like almost every release I do, it's like something's like a little weird, something's like off a little bit here or there, and you gotta like type some emails up to this guy and that guy and get this sorted. What's going on with that? Where's the artwork and whatever? Yeah.
Yeah, the logistic struggles of releasing music is
Yeah,
very
the
real.
joys.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I was saying, you got to get that shit done and you got to do it right. Otherwise, your hard work is just not heard by anyone.
Yeah. And making sure you're getting your royalties too.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a big thing.
Yep.
Like we could probably do a whole podcast episode just on that another time. But
Yeah, totally.
yeah, dude, thanks for hanging out on the podcast, man. We've been going strong for almost about 2 hours now. So one of the longer episodes, but yeah, I've been wanting to have you on for a hot minute, so I'm finally glad that you made it, and it's always good seeing your face, and hopefully I'll see you when you're in Denver, I think,
Yeah,
with
for sure.
Artifacts. That'll be a sick show. I love Serves. Cervantes is a good time. You've played there before, haven't you?
Yeah, years ago
Okay.
with Stickybuds.
Oh, I love Sticky Buds.
This is going to be, I think that was in the back room, and then this time I'm playing in the front room, like the bigger room.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm really excited for that show.
My
But yeah,
friend,
thanks for having me on, man. Yeah, you cannot shut me up once you start talking about Max for Live and shit.
perfect. That's why I wanted you to come on. Yeah.
Yeah, feel free to like edit out all that boring shit at the start where I'm just talking about my dad and just get straight to the good shit where we're talking about like anti-aliasing and
Yeah.
shit.
No, I mean, we're here for the feelsy stuff and the nerdy stuff, so I mean, I
Okay,
love it
whatever.
all. By the way, I think the sponsor for this episode is Magic Mind. Do you like matcha or tea?
My girlfriend does.
Okay. Well, it's a nootropic. If you're not familiar with what a nootropic is, it's like really good for like mental clarity and energy without making you feel anxious like coffee does. And
Mm.
it's got like lion's mane and other herbs and stuff in it. And I thought it was a total like bullshit placebo effect. And I take it before all the podcasts now, and I absolutely love it. And I'll send you some if you want to try it.
Yeah. I mean, I think my girlfriend would be into it for sure. She drinks matcha.
Okay.
I don't really drink coffee as much anymore. Well, I still have like a coffee every other day or so. But my solution to not getting anxious from coffee is to just not drink coffee or anything with caffeine in it.
Yeah.
And then I realize that I'm just like smash some water and I'm like, boom, my brain's awake.
So just water. Water will wake you up.
You see me all the whole time. This is empty now, man.
Yeah.
Drink what? Got the Coleman to my left.
By the way, is that a Tetris shirt? I just noticed that.
Yeah.
That's the sickest shirt I've ever seen. That's
I love
awesome.
this shit. I love Tetris as well.
Me too, dude. I used to play that on the big old brick Game Boy, like the giant gray one that had no color. That was like my jam growing up. I played that all the time.
Yeah, I play Tetris 99 on the Nintendo Switch. It's a Tetris game where it's you against 98 other players, 99 total players, and everyone's playing Tetris as fast as they can. And when you clear a line, it sends some bullshit garbage to someone else, and their shit gets a little higher until they clear some lines, and then it gets lower again. So you're just playing Tetris against fucking 100 people and sending lines everywhere, and then if you're the last person alive, you win.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's such a cool game. It's free on the Nintendo Switch, and I just play like a couple games every morning.
Dude, let's go. I'll totally play you. I'm about to buy a Switch because my nephews have been like raving about wanting to play with me for so long. So maybe we'll be Tetris friends.
I will absolutely destroy you in that game, dude.
I'm going to practice before I play you, but I don't know. If I'm as good as I was when I was a kid playing on Game Boy, you might have a challenge.
I fucking doubt it, dude. Seriously. You're going to get absolutely murdered by me.
You're like, this is literally all I do when I'm not making music, just Tetris.
I've been playing game time. There's a stat in the game, and time actually playing the game is like past 1,000 hours. So
it sounds like time well spent.
When I say I play a couple games every morning, I mean that. And it's been that for like 2-3 years.
Wow. That's amazing, man. If music, you decide to put that down, maybe you have a bright future in like a professional Tetris player.
Yeah, man. I was thinking about streaming it on Twitch and stuff like that, I win like 20% of the games I play, which is like kind of, it's not bad, like overall stat. For every 5 games I play, I win.
It's not bad. That's not bad.
Especially like depends on the time of day you play. Because if you play when like Japan is awake, holy shit, I get destroyed. Like Japanese players are fucking insane at that game. Like I thought I was good, and like I can beat like the North Americans, like no worries.
Yeah.
You know, I'll get like 5 wins in a row and shit. But as soon as the Japan wakes up, I just get smoked.
Yeah. I mean, they probably invented Tetris, didn't they? I mean, they made a lot of games, so maybe it makes sense.
They didn't. Russia invented it, but that's a whole different podcast again.
Wow. Interesting. Well, cool, man. Well, we should have you on the podcast maybe another time down the road. We can talk more about Tetris. But yeah, this has been great seeing you once again. Looking forward to seeing you in Denver. I'll probably make it out to the show. I'm planning on going, so maybe I'll see you there.
Cool. See you there, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, dude. Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast. Do me a huge favor if you would and hit that follow or subscribe button wherever you're listening to the podcast. If you don't hate the podcast, please leave a 5-star review. It would help me out a ton. Don't forget to check back on Tuesdays for new episodes. I plan on cranking out a lot more in the upcoming future. Also, if you didn't know, on Spotify, if you click on an episode on mobile, you can interact there and you can tell me what you think about this episode and other episodes, and it would be great to hear from you and see what you're thinking about the podcast. If you want to be the first to get new episodes and stay updated and get free new devices and sample packs and other stuff that I'll be sending out in the future, join the newsletter. Just go to liveproducersonline.com/newsletter and or check out the links in the show notes. Make sure to give this guest a follow on the socials. Give them some love for spending their time. And once again, thanks for listening to the podcast. I will see you next time. Later.